So for beginning, I would like to highlight the probably biggest thing in AD 18 is BOM and ActiveBOM in particular. So from now on, we saying in Altium, we're saying that the ActiveBOM would be the recommended way to do and manage your bill of material. Not only way, but recommended. What does it mean? So if you used to have your BOM reports in a way they always were, just a list of the components generated from project, that's fine. You still can use and work in this manner. But recommendation and further improvement in development will be focused on ActiveBOM. And probably the big change. So from now on, if in your design you have ActiveBOM document, that would mean the all generation in all the places, whenever you touch bill of materials, will be sourced from this document. It doesn't matter. Either you put BOM table in a Draftsman, or you generate your Excel files through output jobs, or you're running BOM report just to see or do some research, that will be sourced from the ActiveBOM. If, of course, you have it in your document. So the first change, of course, that is the UI and the way how ActiveBOM is presented. If you recall how it was done in previous versions, the biggest change we have get rid of those tabs, catalog and BOM components. From now on, what you see is what you get. You literally on a screen, when you open ActiveBOM document, you see your traditional BOM. But we still have some options. The first one is so-called views. We support 3 views. The first one is pretty simple, is a flat one. The flat is just a list of components. Each component is individual line in a grid, just list for whatever needs you wanna export, copy paste, research, doesn't matter. The second is base view, and our expectation, prediction, and vision that will be the 95% of your time that will be spent in this view. That is traditional, actually, bill of materials. The components is grouped by particular component class. And that's actually as it always was in the BOM report and everywhere else. The third one is the one of the big features of that release is consolidated view. Many people call it different ways, is multivariant, consolidated, and other names, but essentially that a single view that represents all the variants at once. It depends of how you use the how you prepare your documentation, and there are cases. Our data shows it's about 10–20% of people who usually have only one package of documentation and only one BOM per all the variants for different reasons. Either that's driven by requirements on a format of documentation or simplicity, or doesn't matter. From now on, we do support this consolidated view. How does it work? There will be 3 additional columns. Damir, could you please show those? Where you see quantity of this particular component for particular variant. The interesting case when you have alternatives. So There is a quick way to see what components you have alternatives if you filter by the varied value in a fitted, not fitted column. And you can see 2 lines per C3, per component C3. It's the same component in one of the variants. You can see it's variant A. You have alternative, different component with different manufacturing part number. In that case, we of course have 2 lines and different quantities in the columns. For now, we do support that in this basic way, and would like to hear your feedback. If you, the person who use consolidated BOM, please post on the forum, provide feedback. We would love to hear you. The functionality that was always there, but we just want to highlight that it's still there, custom grouping. So if you using non-managed libraries and you use libraries in a way, in this really traditional, let's say, way, when you have only one resistor in your library, you place it into the design and then type parametric data inside of the design. Instead of having that in a library, you have to define grouping. So it was moved into particular preferences where you can define those fields that define component itself. By default, common description value, but of course depends on the style of your parameter naming. It could be anything, up to the customer. Another minor but pleasant feature is designator grouping. Now, if you have those hundreds of repeating resistors that goes in series, you can just reduce size of the column and use ranges instead of repeating all the name of the individual designators. Next big change is amount, quantity, and quality of the columns available in ActiveBOM. If you recall, in previous version, it was quite limited, and that was one of the popular requests to allow to see the more information. From now on, the basic all parametric data from your schematics is available as the columns as it was in BOM report, so there is no difference with ActiveBOM from now on. There are a couple nice additions in the form of custom column and custom row. So with custom column, you can add any number of free text columns and define any data you want in there. These data can be copy-paste, can be brought from outside or just typed. You can filter out after that, or use this field as I know, some check marks. The beauty, this data will be persistent and set with the document itself and with the design, and will be available again everywhere. Whenever you export something, whenever you print, whenever you have your draftsman, that's just free text column without updating your library or modifying the schematics. Another thing will be the custom row. It's again just free text row, and you can type there whatever you want. Materials, processes, just free text, notes, again, anything. And as always, it will be saved persistently, available in all the reports, draftsman, out jobs, everywhere. Another feature you might already have seen, column aliases. That was another popular request. So you can define alias for any column in your BOM. It will be stored persistently, and when you export, it will use this name. Not only for custom columns, but also for the system ones. For example, designator, you can rename to revdes. Usually that is the case with integrations whenever you need import your BOM into PLM or ERP, and requirements on the format of CSV file are specific, so you can drive that here. The next feature related to columns is line numbers. That is a system column where you can define numbers for BOM rows. Yes. Unlike the previous one, the previous line numbers that were defined in a Excel template, those numbers are persistent. So if you have a new component, that component will be inserted, but line numbers for already existing components will remain untouched, and that components and new capacitor will have no line number. Right now we support only basic numbering. I have seen the feedback on the forum. That's something we consider to extend at some point. Right now there is quick workaround, and I'm showing you can use any kind of numbering just via copy paste in Excel. So after that, whenever you have some new line in between numbers, you can utilize something from reserved numbers. And again, it's available everywhere in Draftsman, in export, in API calls, everywhere. The next big change is data sources. I will quickly say that from now on we do support the traditional ones, PCB board and database links inside of ActiveBOM. It was not available in previous versions, but that just equalizing the functionality. The one of the big new features would be the Altium cloud data source. And there are two features around this data source. The first one is parametric data. What does it mean? It literally, if you have linked some MPNs, manufacturing part numbers, to your components, you can load, display, and export all the parameters that are available in Altium Cloud services. Technically speaking, that will be Octopad and Siva search indexes. Why would you need that? And there are at least two cases when you don't populate your library with extensive amount of data, so you can just missing parameters. The second, quite interesting, is validation of your BOM. So you can load parsed data and compare with the data you have in your schematic, and try to identify and find those cases when you have linked the wrong MPN or you have typed the wrong parameters in your schematic component. Practically, you can show value column from the design and value column from the cloud and see the difference in the values. If there is difference, that might something to investigate. The second, and I would say that would be the, the primary feature, is manufacturing lifecycle. Again, if you have linked manufacturing data, supply chain data to your components, And you can do it in multiple ways, through supplier links, from manufacturer links, through purchases if you're using Vault, via manual solutions in ActiveBOM, rare case, but still. And using cloud sources, you will load the manufacturing life cycle from the cloud, the actual one, live one. And with a single view, see that some of the components require attention. In some cases, the data is just not available, but again, that's another cause to dig deeper. Why not? So this life cycle, okay, so probably the validation rule checks I will touch in a specific topic. So the next one is basic, and again, it's just equalizing the functionality is fitted, not fitted column. It's available in ActiveBOM from now on. Another simplification of the UI and usability improvement is ability to print ActiveBOM data directly. So as always, traditionally you was doing that, you just run a report, BOM report, and you have your data for export or printing. I've already touched that, but want to highlight. So if you have your ActiveBOM document in a design, it becomes the source of all your BOMs. So even if you will run this report from the schematic, so when schematic document is open, the report will show data from ActiveBOM document. You always will see your BOM, the master BOM. No longer differences, and you don't need use output jobs to run your BOM as it was in previous versions. Next huge change is supply chain usability, UI, and additional data. That's something you cannot miss. It's quite bright. What are the changes? The biggest one is the way how we treat supply chain data. Starting from 18.1, it will be focused on manufacturing part rather than supply part. What does it mean? So the primary object you're working with is manufacturing part. So you define ranks for MPN. You see combined stock for MPN. You see the average price for MPN, data sheet, link to the manufacturing site if it's available. Everything that is around MPN. You can even disable all your suppliers and work with only manufacturing parts. Second change of functionality will be in a way how we treat and work with suppliers data. It became, so the nature of this data becomes more dynamic. By default, if you just open your BOM, the suppliers are chosen automatically based on pricing, availability, stock, all those parameters. At some degree, you can override that behavior using favorite supplier list. You can define a list of suppliers that are applicable for this particular design. If in previous versions it was driven for whole Altium design installation, from now on you can control that on per project basis. Another nice feature is supplier priority. So you just choose DGK Mauser as your favorites, and they always will be chosen before others. Another thing is amount on information that is available in those tiles in a supply chain section. You can see a lot more information without scrolling, switching between items, lines, and rows. So you can see supplier numbers, the dates when it was updated, price breaks, stock, all that information. If you're not satisfied with the way how system automatically have selected your supplier, you can override that. Or you can manually lock certain selections, so it will never be updated whenever stock or pricing, those fluctuations of everything. You can lock specific supply if you want. But the general feedback we're getting from people that the highest priority is manufacturing part, and supplies is something dynamic by its nature. So based on amount of feedback, we have changed approach for ranking. From now on, there are no limits on ranks, amount of ranks, and we extended them to 5. That's a minor change. Okay. Now another quite big change. It was not available before in any form, the manufacturing links. As most of you probably know, I'm sure you know, there were 2 ways to attach supply chain data to the component. The first and traditional was always supply links for last, I don't know, 10, 15 years. Then we came up with the part choices for managed components, but they require Vault technology. And to be honest, the managed components would be the kind of way where we'll invest our time and kind of put our efforts. But there are plenty existing designs and plenty approaches, and many people use this pattern when manufacturing part is defined as a parameter of the component. And in ActiveBOM, in version 18, we do support this data. So if you have defined manufacturer and part number pair in your components and in your library, in ActiveBOM, you can select those parameters in the manufacturer links dialog, and they will be used to retrieve supply chain data from the cloud in a similar way as supply links, but for manufacturing parts. You can define several parts using several pairs of the MPNs, and you will not be linked to one particular supplier as it was before. You choose DGK, it always shows data only for DGK, and you cannot check overall stock or compare prices or select different supplier. So that's big change in 18.1. And another nice feature is BOM checks. It will be fully available in a form we show in beta 4. In beta 3, I think we have only preliminary level. But what does it mean? So in a similar way as we had for electrical rule checks, you can configure rule checks for the BOM. Amount of checks is I would say quite limited comparing to things people do with custom macros in Excel and stuff, but it's enough to do basic checks on your bill of materials. You can validate availability, stock, selection of the manufacturing parts, duplicated line numbers, and then plenty of other things. And you can customize what level of the warning system will give you. So if you don't care about supply chain at all, you disable all validation with suppliers and have all your statuses green and nice. The BOM check grid allows, the mirror shown right now, allows to quickly filter by particular type of violation, and you analyze and fix your design accordingly, just with single click. That nice usability feature. Another change that we did in 18, it's related to ActiveBOM, but just for you to know, it was a huge effort on refactoring internals of the BOM generation. So from now on, we have unified BOM engine that is being utilized by ActiveBOM. And many changes with this new engine, we were able to do many changes targeting the performance. And that, I believe, was the most voted bug crunch related to bill of materials, the performance of BOM generation. So based on preliminary data, on average, the BOM generation is 3 times faster. Depend on the design, data, amount of unique components, etc., etc. So in one particular component that was published in, I believe, in one of the bug crunches, it's 2,500 components. The previous version took about 4 minutes to generate full BOM. In version 18, it's 30 seconds. It's, I don't know how many times. So in certain cases, it's really significant improvement in performance. And performance specifically one of the areas that we would like to hear your feedback. If you face a situation when your BOM generation takes longer than 1 minute, please report. We want to investigate that and see why it's happening. So we we plan to address performance in coming betas till we can. And just to summarize the amount of the changes in this release, so we addressed, I think, 47, so around 50 bug crunches with different number of votes, of course, but it's 50 bug crunches, and cumulative amount of votes was close to 400, I think. So it's many improvements, bug fixes, and performance optimization. I think that's everything we plan to show, and we can go to Q&A session.
Excellent. Thank you, Nikolai. To me, that's awesome. And obviously, a lot of exciting changes there. And you know, in terms of after this webinar, hopefully, you guys are you know, excited enough to start you know, putting it through its paces, and then naturally reporting back on the forums as you see things. I just want to reiterate, as you report things, please report them separate issue or idea per thread. Just makes it a lot easier for us to keep track. First of all, Nikolai, there's a number of questions I think that was posted while you're talking, so maybe you can have a chance to go through those first, and then by all means, if you have a question, you can either type in or you can unmute yourself if you have a headset or microphone and ask us directly.
So first question we have, so custom columns, do they support differencing parameters and combining parameters? So custom columns is just free text. So whatever you type there, it is. So if there are cases when you want to see something additional there, probably formulas, that's good thing to report in a forum as a suggestion. So that's something that we would like to hear from you guys. What are the cases? What would you do there with the formulas? As a workaround, you can quickly copy-paste the content of your BOM to Excel, combine there, return back, and put the combined column into custom column. But yeah. So question from Ben, what are the acceptable parameter names for the MPN and manufacturer lookup? Those are, so Damir, if you could please show this dialog with manufacturer links, that literally any column from parameters, any name, you define those parameters. We're trying to automatically recognize some common names like part number, manufacturer, etc. But you can always define them manually and define that in a project template, and that will automatically inherit it for all your new designs. Next question. I like the ERC based on a cloud supplier search. Yeah, actually, that's not a question. Yeah. Some of the checks are performed on a cloud data. For example, validation of the manufacturing life cycle. So this end of life status by default will be highlighted as the fatal error, I think, if I remember right. So make sure we have a way to turn off the cloud search when we do the BOM. This has been a source of significant performance hits. That was specifically that we were addressing. So with new BOM engine, we were able to refactor and redo the way how we retrieve data. From now on, it's done in asynchronous way. It's done in multiple threads, and there should not be significant impact. If you still see that, please report in a forum. We want to investigate. There is a good chance that just takes, I don't know, 30 seconds to retrieve data from the cloud, and you don't want to spend that time. And we need some way to disable those queries. We might consider that upon your feedback. So another question, how much of this functionality will be gated by not using Altium Vault? I'm trying to recall. So separation of the functionality is the same as it was before. And with manufacturer links, we bring the huge piece of that functionality for those non-Vault customers. Of course, the manufacturer links will not be available in design time or in your library. It's feature of ActiveBOM itself, but it doesn't require Vault. But again, all the future beauty, for example, ranks in a library or component assemblies, we require some infrastructure, and this infrastructure will be based on a Vault technology and managed components. But the basic one, validation, cloud data, supply links, manufacturer links, it will be available without requirement of the Vault. So since the functionality is in beta 3 builds, you can play, check, propose, yeah, provide feedback. So there is question from Hubert: is there any update for ActiveBOM linked to internal databases for those who cannot access internet? It depends. First of all, we do support the database links in the same manner as it was before, just to load parametric data. And to continue, a topic is managed component. If you're using Vault, supply chain can be sourced from your ERP or MRP or PLM systems. So custom database part sources, that is feature of the part catalog, which is part of the Vault product. There you can define connectivity to your custom database, several databases, and load prices, stock, all the data from the custom sources. And and of course you can link it by internal ID. That means that all functionality of AVL, AML lists, approved vendor, approved manufacturer lists, will be managed by external system and will be consumed inside of the Altium Designer. But as I said before, advanced functionality requires some platform, and that platform is managed components in Altium Vault. How do you map manufacturer 1 to library parameter? Same for manufacturer part number. I believe we have answered. You just select name of the parameter in the preferences of the ActiveBOM, and that's it. Just simple. Performance. Is there still a massive slowdown due to supply surge when clicking component to component in schematically we had to turn? Yeah, I have seen that feedback on the forum. That's something we want to investigate. For sure, that part is schematic libraries. It's not ActiveBOM, it's just schematic libraries. It's still there. And if you have slow connectivity or something wrong with our servers, we need to kind of check. We'll come back to that. It still be there. It's not directly related to BOM per se, it's libraries, but we will have a look. That I think all the questions in the chat. So if somebody wanna do audio, please unmute yourself. So with this silence, I'm not sure. Is it technical trouble or there are no questions?
I think you've exhausted all the questions this afternoon. It's probably getting late in the day or too early in the morning. There's someone coming.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
So I use the BOM tool quite a bit using the out job flow that I have a template set up in the out job. Is that functionality still preserved?
Yes, for sure. So we're always trying to avoid affecting the existing flows whenever it's possible. And if you have pre-configured bill of materials and the source of the data is chosen as project, it will consume data from the project. You are not forced to switch to ActiveBOM. We recommend to do because of all that functionality, but the existing flow remains untouched. Nothing will change if you just open existing design.
So one kind of tangent that I think is related that it would be nice to have. So whenever I go to generate updated documentation, it's usually I do it all. So if I have, say, a schematic change or some sort of engineering change that requires a BOM change, that usually involves updating several documents, like the assembly BOM, a schematic, maybe a Gerber if we have to change that. So the out job is pretty important to maintain because I can do it all. So
Yep.
my only thought, if whatever we can do to preserve that, it'd be nice to, I don't know if it's possible to intermix the BOM doc in that out job flow, if it even makes sense.
Yeah,
Only from that perspective that usually once I'm in there, that's where I like to get everything done. And I'll have one other comment, then I'll hop off, is one feature that would be absolutely awesome is whenever you're in that out job, for example, when I have to generate a BOM, I usually have 3 or 4 depending on variance. I would love a master button that says just generate every single thing in this output job that it can generate. Because right now I have to click probably 9 or 10 times when I go through it. So
I have an answer for you, even 2
okay,
answers. So first one, the availability of ActiveBOM in our jobs. So it remains the same as from the beginning. I believe it was 14.3 when we introduced that. So you can use ActiveBOM as the source in your output jobs, for sure, without any doubts. So it fits in traditional flow without any changes. You just select not project as the source, but ActiveBOM document. That's it, nothing else. It's plain and simple. So second question, the batch generation of the documentation outputs per for all variants. That was addressed in 17.0 with new release manager. So I recommend to have a quick look on that. So it allows you to generate all variants in one click. It allows you to generate selected outputs for all variants in one click. So it's a good tool to explore, and it at least from, as I understand the question, it should cover your needs to generate those in batches.
Yeah, I think so. I, for whatever reason, thought that the release manager required the use of the vault, and maybe that's why I never looked there.
Nope.
I'll make sure to look there.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So with release manager, we maintaining all the, as with most of the functionality. If it's possible, we make the features and functionality available even without vault. But when it's just tremendous amount of efforts, and in many cases requires to create another vault, so we're saying, yeah, sorry, it's time to new technologies. There is another question from Sean. Is there an advantage to use 3 out jobs? Depends how you plan to use. At least there is clear case when you have 3 output jobs, the specialized output jobs. The first one is validation. So you configure your DRC, ERC, and another validation in one output job. And then you have fabrication output job with all the data for bare boards fabrication. And the third one is assembly output job, all the configurations for assembly package documentation. And those 3 out jobs you can combine in release manager in quite agile way. And usually I personally recommend to use 3 out jobs per project template. Yes. Another question. With Vault being the platform of choice for implementing the new functionality in Altium, will the API used internally be opened up for developer programs so people can implement their own vaults? It's slightly frustrating to feel like most of the newer features will be gated behind a second license agreement. So right now, the API of the Vault itself, of the Vault platform, is open. So you just need to sign some NDA, same as with Altium Designer SDK. And the level of the support of that API is even higher than an Altium Designer. So we literally using same SDK for development, the same SDK that we provide to customers. So yeah, you can do any things with Vault. If you're talking about substituting Vault, so you technically can do, but that's amount of work that I'm not sure that somebody can handle. Believe me, it's really a lot of work put there. So is ActiveBOM support multi-board design project? Good question. Yes, at some degree. So in 18.0, this support will exist. It will be limited in certain areas. We still have a lot to do, but it will support it, yes. Yeah, the recording we will publish on the forum if somebody missed a video on Release Manager in the future. Good question. That's probably a question to our marketing or technical team. So Release Manager was the feature of 17.0. So probably at some point we will kind of publish, but there is pretty good documentation in documentation section of the site, so you can have a look. Jason, Harvey, and team did a good job describing, and it's not so complex. It's pretty kind of simple tool. So sorry, I will ignore questions around PCB right now because we have only 10 minutes. Yep. Ben has answered that, yeah, there are plans to have an update on Release Manager videos and materials. Those, I think, all the questions we have for now in the chat.
Hi, Nikolai. It's Darren Moore.
Hi.
Just like to say there's a lot of work there, and we can see that it's going to take a while to take it all in. There's some really good stuff there. I can see some of my customers will be keen on given time, but it will take time. So keep it up. Good work. Thanks.
Thank you. Most of the thanks goes to Damir, as he was product manager on this. Big effort. There was huge amount of job underneath to kind of prepare the BOM engine for many changes.
Thanks, Damir.
So there is another question from Sean. For the image you're displaying now, is the reason you don't want to wrap the suppliers list? That's interesting topic. So Sean, could you please elaborate? So what do you mean? To wrap where in the bottom section? Wrap. So you want to hide all those, gonna remove all those suppliers, or limit amount of the suppliers?
Show a second row, I think he means, instead of just one row across.
Ah, yeah, I got you. Yeah. Not sure. Good point to discuss. It will take more space. So our assumption was that people usually work with limited amount of the suppliers, 2, 3 plus one kind of free supply, and there is no need to see all of them. While for resistors, capacitors, and other passive, there are usually several manufacturing parts, and manufacturing information is more important. But that depends on the feedback again. If in real life scenarios something will not fit, we may consider. So we have a good platform to do such kind of changes. So I believe we all. Oh, another question. More alternative manufacture part is usually more important than more suppliers. Yep. So that kind of was our intention here. Suppliers, so we constantly getting this kind of feedback. So it's either 2, 3 suppliers, or people do not care. They only validate the part is available in the market, and if it's available, the selection of the particular supplier goes somewhere outside of the design stage. And yeah. Is the supply chain using Octopart Siva? Is there an option to use other supply chains? So under the hood, that is indeed, of course, since we acquired those 2 great companies, the data is powered by combined indexes of Octopart and Siva. Switching to another supply chains. This switch should happen under our control. If there are some suppliers we don't have such yet now, potentially it's possible. So they will supply their data to this common database, and it will be available, but it's not selection from customer. One of the reasons why we have switched to our own source, it's amount of pain and with the supporting of individual sources. If you remember version 16.1 and below, supported direct access to GG key, Mauser, and another supplier. It was 6 or 7 sources, and that was nightmare for us to support. So they changing API, they changing even IDs in one of the cases. So you have ID, supply ID in a library of design, and the distributor changing those IDs, and you longer cannot access data. So you carefully maintain your library, and you have lost it in one moment. So because of those reasons, we want to control this source and using. But we have quite ambitious plans to extend this cloud data source. So more and more information and the quality of information will be improved. And more data will be in that cloud source, like alternatives or replacement or I hope in future that will be the longer materials at some stage and that kind of data. So it will grow and grow. Yeah, and Ben highlights that right now Octopath and SEO combined, we're getting data and feeds from more than 400 distributors. That's kind of huge amount of information. And the more important, we start getting information directly from manufacturers, so first class information. And that will be the ultimate goal, to have direct data from manufacturer to the customer. Okay, so I think we're running out of time. So if there are no questions, we probably can close. Ha! Good question with Upverter. Yeah, Sean, we plan to do huge amount of things with them. More to follow.
Okay, all right. Well, thanks everyone for your time this afternoon or morning, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the forums, and hopefully you can give this new ActiveBOM a good run, and you know, provide as much feedback, good and bad, on the forums, and appreciate all the help that you're giving us through this beta cycle. I know that we're only a couple of months into beta. It feels like we've gone 6 months, but we've still got a couple of months to go, and really appreciate all the efforts that everyone's doing. So keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.